So now we're at our fourth and final brief lecture, and I want to focus on how cultures have been changing and persisting around the world. So cultures have been changing and evolving in recent decades in several ways. People are increasingly becoming interdependent interconnected, individualistic, and more intelligent. So let's discuss what each of these means in terms of cultural evolution. So people from different cultures are increasingly becoming more interconnected, and I just adore this picture because it really shows how interconnected we are. This is due to connectivity through the internet, reduced long-distance phone rates, transportation costs, opportunities that bring different people together, lots of different things. Such interconnectedness has created a global culture where many organizations and large companies like Starbucks are now spanning national borders. Still notably, this globalization has also been countered by increasing tribalism, an urge to return to traditional cultures. In fact, many psychological and public health crises, such as substance abuse and suicidality, have been attributed in part to a lack of cultural identity, prompting interventions that connect youth with elders and their cultural traditions. So we'll discuss this further when we focus on multiculturalism in a few weeks. People as a whole, especially in Western cultures, are also becoming more individualistic. Cultures are often studied on the basis of individualism versus culturalism, and that's what we'll discuss later on as well. Per individualism, individuals are encouraged to consider themselves as distinct from other people and to prioritize their own personal goals over collective goals. Per collectivism, individuals are encouraged to attain and take pride in collective group achievement over their own personal goals. This has been discussed a lot in the US, where notably it's proposed that people have become less socially engaged and less civically minded since the 1960s, which is what we're seeing on this New Yorker cover. This proposition is based on the observation that during the past decades, people were more likely to entertain guests at home, vote, join a parent-teacher association, and socialize with their neighbors. Such a shift is especially notable when comparing younger and older American generations. Proposed reasons for the shift include more pressures of time and money, increased suburbanization, more electronic entertainment, and older generations living through a transformational experience like World War II, which is what our younger generations supposedly have not lived through. Even an increase in individual and traditionally collective cultures, such as Japan, has occurred as well. This can be seen from increases in divorce rates, decreases in average family size, and valuing more independence in children in these cultures. Still, my critique of this is that it is not clear that we are really less civically engaged. Possibly our engagement has just evolved over the decades. You'll have a chance to explore this after you view this video. But I do want to continue a little bit here. An example of what I'm saying is from the Pew Research Center, and they've worked on a means to understand civic engagement. In a 2013 survey, they found that people are civically engaged, but via online means as opposed to in-person means. For example, 48% directly take part in civic group activities within a 12-month period preceding August 2012. 39% said that they recently contacted a government official or spoke out at a public forum via offline methods. 34% contacted a government official or spoke out in a public forum via online methods. 39% participate in political or civic activities via social networking sites such as Facebook and Twitter. And 72% of adults estimated from this survey participated in at least one of the activities in the 4 categories of civic and political engagement. Interesting, they found that regarding online engagement, political participation is more balanced between lower and higher income groups. But education is important. Having a college education does predict civic engagement across all categories. And younger adults are just as likely as older adults to engage in many political activities. And again, you'll have a chance to explore this after you see this video. In a study my student and I conducted with Alaska Native UAF students, we asked students to teach us about the factors that impact their quality of life at the University of Alaska Fairbanks. While a lot were similar to that of other non-Alaska Native students, they did discuss the tension they often felt being from a collectivist society, but living and studying in an education system that values individualism. Students described the importance of navigating between traditional and Western worlds and balancing both Western and traditional values as what may be considered important in their home village, such as strong sense of community, subsistence, lifestyle, that may be at times in conflict with what is emphasized in a Western education, such as competition and individualism. Another way that we're evolving as a culture is in terms of intelligence across generations and increasing significantly. In our book, this is referred to as the Flynn effect, named after James Flynn, who studied this phenomenon. By looking at indicators of intelligence across generations, Flynn found out that our newer generations demonstrate higher intelligence levels and higher IQ scores. This is to the point that current IQ cutoffs for being labeled as being intellectually delayed would have been the cutoff for being labeled gifted 100 years ago. Why do we think this is? Proposed reasons for increased intelligence include more people receiving education than before. There are increased percentages of populations receiving bachelor's degrees, and more people are receiving education than before. For example, they're saying an increased percentage of the population has a bachelor's degree. Only 20% of men born in 1890 had a high school education, with only 9% completing post-secondary education. This is in contrast to 2012, where 94% of people over 25 had a high school education, with 58% having a post-secondary education and 11% achieving postgraduate degrees. Also proposes that pop culture has been increasingly becoming more complicated. Movies and TV shows have had more complicated plots. Video games have become more highly complex, and so have the stories that people are hearing day to day using online methods. So, in a way, we're being educated more, and we're being asked and practicing more complicated scenarios. One last thing I wanted to discuss from Chapter 3 was the concept of pluralistic ignorance. This is the tendency for people to collectively misinterpret the thoughts that underlie other people's behaviors. When everyone incorrectly assumes everyone else is in favor of some cultural norm, they will comply with that norm, thus perpetuating a culture. One example is the culture of binge drinking, where people think other people drink more than they actually do, and other behaviors might be induced by peer pressure. Another example is the norm that everyone is okay with texting or using the cell phone during a dinner date, which we'll see how you feel about that. And yet another example is individuals going along with a leader because they feel everyone else supports him or her. Just think of everybody following Adolf Hitler. So, we've discussed a lot. And for your final activity for this week, I'd like you to find some people to talk with you about how engaged they are civically, whether online or offline, and share your findings with me. So enjoy this, and thank you.